Hey, what's happening, you guys? What's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Going to be doing another rundown video today. Going to be kind of covering the news, talking about markets yesterday. We're going to be talking a little bit about YouTube and kind of how crazy YouTube has gotten. I'm actually a little bit late making this video today. I'd actually made one earlier this morning and wound up getting cut off with a phone call. So it's about mid-afternoon, or actually early afternoon, and just sitting down to make the video. So this morning I was talking about how J Powell was going to be testifying in front of Congress, and because I'm late making the video, I actually saw a good portion of his testimony in front of Congress. He had talked about crypto. I think kind of the big news of the day. Everybody has been waiting for a Fed pivot that I think a lot of us realize isn't happening and isn't coming anytime soon. But J Powell today in front of Congress said that they're going to raise rates faster, they're going to raise rates higher, and they're going to keep rates elevated longer than they had initially anticipated. And, the markets haven't wanted to believe this. A lot of people haven't wanted to believe this. People, kept trying to push the narrative that, so-and-so said something that was a little bit dovish. I think that means that that the Fed is going to, halt rates, or that rates are going to start being brought back down. That's not happening. There were a couple kind of interesting takeaways from Powell's comments, but we'll get to talking about those in a few minutes here. Just within the past hour or so, I guess a building collapsed in New York City. Don't really have the full story. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of info out there. Doesn't appear that it was a building that people resided in or lived in. It's not as if hundreds or dozens of people are trapped in the building. It looks like, from what I could tell from the story, that a building that was going to be demolished collapsed. There's like 3 workers in there. I saw on Twitter people are saying, "Oh, this is to distract from the January 6th tapes." I wasn't even aware that there were any new January 6th tapes, but apparently within the past couple days, a video came out showing. If you guys remember back to the January 6th incident, there was that guy with like the Viking horns who was walking through the Capitol and sitting at Nancy Pelosi's desk. Well, a video just surfaced. I literally just learned about this myself a few minutes ago. A video apparently has surfaced in the past couple days, maybe in the past week. Again, I've been out of the loop. I was down in Key West. Just got back and put out a video yesterday. But a video has surfaced of the guy with the horns basically being ushered or led in to the Capitol by 2 Capitol Police. They kind of followed him throughout the building. These guys were basically acting as his escorts. They were trying to open doors for him. At one point, he wound up walking through a crowd of 9, maybe 12 police officers. Again, completely let him walk by. He was basically being escorted around by the Capitol Police. I've kind of thought from the very beginning, like, people are talking about, oh my gosh, January 6th, it was worse than Pearl Harbor. It was worse than 9/11. Was it one of the brighter moments in our country's history? No. Is it kind of like disrespectful to the country and the Capitol and politicians and everything else? Sure. Do politicians or our government really deserve any respect? Probably not. But the idea that this was like some violent, crazy moment that happened is just kind of crazy, right? Like, people were walking orderly in through lines, taking pictures. It was just kind of like a goofy, stupid, silly thing, and it kind of goes to show how stupid like groupthink is and how silly people get when they're in a group and kind of feel that anonymity, or as if they're not responsible for their actions. But anyhow, this kind of changes the narrative that people broke into the Capitol. People were basically escorted into the Capitol. I love a good conspiracy theory, but do I think that the government knocked down a building that was being demolished anyways to just injure 3 workers, which isn't really that big of a story? Probably not. Seems like kind of a silly conspiracy. And I do buy into the idea that that the Oklahoma City bombing was done by the government, likely to hide things that Bill and Hillary Clinton were doing. I do think that 9/11 was an inside attack to cover up the missing money. Was it $6 trillion or something like that was missing? I do buy into those conspiracies, but the idea that the government knocked down a building in New York City, injuring 3 construction workers to distract from this January 6th tape, I think is kind of silly. Let's kind of talk about markets yesterday, because that's kind of where we normally start these videos off. The Dow closed up 0.12%. NASDAQ closed down 0.27%. The S&P 500 closed up 0.06%. So things were kind of trading sideways. Same with crypto. Crypto kind of traded sideways. A little bit of a commentary on YouTube. So we've been talking a lot lately, and I'm sure you guys noticed this for yourself, But YouTube is absolutely ridiculous in terms of the words that you can say and can't say. People talk in code. People will blank out, normal words. You can't have a discussion. You can't make a video on YouTube. And it's leading, even a lot of big mainstream YouTubers are having to kind of post snippets on YouTube and then tell you to check out their Patreon for the full story. Now, is that partially so people can earn money off Patreon? Sure. But also, it's definitely true that you can't say certain things on YouTube. And a lot of channels are starting to post their full videos over on Rumble, a teaser on YouTube, and then encouraging people to go over to Rumble and watch their videos. Some of the videos that I kind of find funny or enjoy watching are these and this is another word that you're not supposed to say on YouTube, but these pedo catcher channels. These channels have been being cracked down on YouTube quite a bit. So a lot of these channels will say, head over to Rumble to watch our stuff because we can't post it on YouTube. They have to cut things out. Anyhow, yesterday I was watching Sean Atwood's YouTube channel. Sean Atwood started off as kind of a crime channel. He was kind of a whiz kid investor as a teenager, wound up moving over to the U.S., was working as a broker, eventually wound up getting into kind of the rave scene, had kind of a big ecstasy ring. If you guys watched the television show Locked Up Abroad, his story was actually featured on Locked Up Abroad. I'm going to assume that a lot of you guys are probably already familiar with him. His channel is primarily true crime, but he does a lot of conspiracy stuff too. For any of you guys who like conspiracies, check out his channel. But Sean Atwood had a guy who I'm kind of familiar with. I've seen him doing the podcast circuits, and I was actually thinking about buying his book a while back. His name is Tim McBride. He's known as the Saltwater Cowboy, and I believe he has a book called Saltwater Cowboy. He was basically a marijuana smuggler back in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, something like that. And again, keep in mind, Sean Atwood has over 700,000 subscribers. He's a pretty big YouTuber, and his channel is about true crime. And he's telling a historical true crime story. He's not glorifying the use of drugs, not that marijuana is even a drug. But early on in the video, when this guy Tim was telling his story, he had made some reference to marijuana or pot or weed or bells or something like that. And Sean Atwood said, "Oh, Tim, let me stop you there." And I think he was talking about his co-host or producer or something like that. He said, "They asked me if you could refer to marijuana as green instead of marijuana, obviously because of the YouTube algorithms." So you have a really kind of fascinating true crime channel, great interview going on, and the guy can't talk about smuggling marijuana, even though he smuggled marijuana. He has to refer to it as quote-unquote green. One interesting thing about YouTube gives musicians and specifically rap artists a lot of leeway that other channels don't. So certain things that you can say in terms of glorifying drug use, violence, gangs, certain things that you can say in music videos or in music or in rap, you can't say on other channels, which is just really odd because rap music definitely glorifies the degradation of women, promiscuous sex, drug use, gangs, violence, and that's perfectly fine. But we can't have a channel like Sean Atwood's doing interviews and talking about kind of the history of South Florida pot smuggling back in the 70s or 80s. And it just kind of struck me as odd how Sean Atwood, 700,000 subscribers, is having to ask a former marijuana smuggler to call marijuana green instead of marijuana. This was from a different podcast I was watching the other day, but I thought it was kind of worth some commentary. Somebody was talking about, today, the reason media and a lot of the content out there sucks today, and this kind of goes in line with what we just talked about with Sean Atwood, everything is meant to appease advertisers. It used to be that you could have a band or a movie or a documentary, and it could have a small niche following, and maybe they sold DVDs, maybe they sold CDs, but you didn't have to appeal to an audience of millions of people. You could have maybe 50,000 fans, sell a DVD for $60, sell an album for $60, and you could make money off a small niche audience or a cult following. You're no longer selling $60 DVDs or albums to 50,000 people. Now you have to appeal to millions of people who aren't going to pay anything, but whoever's putting out the content is going to get 0.006 cents per view. And so everything today has to be advertiser friendly, and that's why media kind of sucks today. Moving on to another story. Actually, I didn't give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video today. The sponsor of today's video is one you guys have heard about before, QuickFixSynthetic.com. QuickFix Synthetic has their QuickFix Synthetic 3.0 synthetic urine kit. If you find yourself needing to pass a drug test, I've used this product for myself at least 2 or 3 times in the past, needing to pass drug tests. They basically give you a little bottle of synthetic urine. You pop it in a microwave for 10 seconds. That heats it up. They then give you a heat pack that you squeeze or pop with your hand, a rubber band that you're going to tape it to the bottle with. And the bottle actually has a nice, handy little temperature gauge, so you can tell that it's going to be at the right temperature or your body temperature. And it's very easy to use if you need to pass a drug test. If you are trying to get a job at Amazon, they're going to give you a saliva test, which is what Amazon does. They sell a mouthwash that will help you pass saliva tests, and they also sell a shampoo that will help you pass a hair follicle test. It's not just that, though. They also have cleansing drinks, urine spiking agents, and a whole lot more. They offer fast shipping and a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. So check them out. Link will be in the description box below, QuickFixSynthetic.com. Moving on to another story for today. There's a new online sensation. I forgot to take the name from this article, but apparently a lot of these people working remotely or working from home are finding themselves very, very lonely. And this kind of reminds me of like ASMR or something like that, but there's apparently a new trend. And again, I apologize, I forget the name. If any of you guys know it, drop a comment down below with the name of what this trend is. But people are basically live streaming themselves working at home, and other people who are working at home are watching these other people who are live streaming themselves working. So I guess they can kind of feel like they're in an office. It's kind of funny. Nobody wants to go into an office, but people want to watch other people working as if they're in an office. Very, very weird. So we got a little bit of like kind of digital marketing news and things like that. There is a publication called Search Engine Land. If you guys are into SEO, social media marketing, digital marketing, check out Search Engine Land. Another good one is Search Engine Journal. And there's another great one called Search Engine News. But anyhow, Search Engine Land did a piece the other day. They were talking about what link in bio platforms are best for SEO. If you're not familiar with link in bio platforms, on a platform like Instagram, you're only allowed to have one link. A lot of people don't know which link to use. Should I link to my YouTube channel? Should I put out an affiliate link? Should I link to my website? So these link in bio platforms basically create a landing page where you can host buttons for 5, 10, 15, 20 different links. So if you're a social media influencer, you have a brand, whatever else, on your Instagram account, Pinterest account, TikTok, whatever else, you can link to a link in bio page, which then links to your website, your blog, an affiliate link, your product, all these other things. Anyhow, they looked at probably 30 different link in bio platforms, and they determined that Linktree is the best. The reason that it's the best for SEO and just overall, they have do follow links, so everything you link to is going to get a do follow backlink, and also they have the most pages indexed out of any of the link in bio platforms out there. Some news from Pinterest. Pinterest is experimenting with a new video ad feature. You've always been able to promote certain pins or promote images, but Pinterest is experimenting with video ads. And then in some other kind of tech news, Brave browser. Brave browser is basically like it runs over the top of Chrome. It blocks ads, blocks trackers. It's one of my favorite browsers. I use Brave and Presearch pretty much exclusively. I like Presearch because I can earn the pre-tokens, but I think Brave is actually a better search engine because it's basically a better version of Chrome. Anyhow, Brave is actually adding AI to their search results to summarize websites. And then one more piece of tech news. We got a new bipartisan bill that's attempting to be passed right now, which is going to give the president the power to ban TikTok, but it doesn't stop there, and other social media sites, platforms, websites, due to quote-unquote national security threats. I've been saying for a long time, I think TikTok is going to be banned in 2023. I don't really like the idea of giving the president sweeping power to be banning social media platforms. Maybe you get a platform that says something about the president he doesn't like, or they're not willing to censor enough, and all of a sudden, they try to make an argument for why it's a national security threat. I think they should just go after TikTok, but it seems like this is going to be kind of a wider sweeping thing. But again, it'll be interesting to see if TikTok winds up being banned in the coming months. Wall Street Journal had an article, Why the Recession is Always 6 months Away. It feels like we're waiting for a shoe to drop. We're waiting for the straw that breaks the camel's back. There's this recession that's been around the corner for a long time. When I kind of first started making these daily videos, I think we were a couple weeks out from midterms, and I said, I think the economy is going to crash, but I think it's going to wait to happen until after the midterms. Obviously, Biden was trying to bribe the Saudis to not halt oil production. He's been releasing oil from the strategic oil reserves to try to bring down gas prices. The media was trying to kind of prop up the economy until after midterms. Then after midterms, Christmas and the holidays were right around the corner, so that kind of put it off a little bit longer. But Wall Street Journal had a great article why it feels like this recession is continually 6 months away. In terms of the reasons that they gave, they said lingering effects of money printing and stimulus. They said there's still plenty of jobs out there. We have even fast food workers, and even minimum wage now is essentially $20 plus. Let's see. We had another article. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. My notes are a little bit scattered here. Why hasn't housing crashed or come down more? There still are some people who are FOMOing into houses, thinking that this could be the last opportunity in their lifetime before home affordability gets so crazy that they'll never be able to buy a home. And also they say, well, demand has dropped. There's also no supply. During the spring season, we typically see supply start to pick up. This has been kind of an unseasonably warm winter, so it almost has the feeling of spring. A lot of families, a lot of people with kids don't want to move in the middle of the school year, and a lot of people don't want to move when the weather is bad. But in the coming weeks, in the coming months, we'll be getting into that kind of spring and summer home sale season. Typically during the winter, during the down months, home prices slip about 5.6%. So in theory, if this were like other years, we should see prices recover about 5.6%, and we should see a lot of other homes begin to come on the market. Everything's so crazy. I'm not even going to try to guess where things are going from here, but I do think it'll be interesting and very telling what's going to happen as we kind of enter spring and kind of see what the housing market looks like. Zero Hedge had an article. The military's top enlisted members say poor housing, poor health care, and poor child care, as well as pay problems, are, I've never heard this word before, deleterious to recruiting and retention. We've talked about this in some recent videos. The military, for a number of years, has been falling short on their recruitment goals. 75% of young people aren't physically fit enough to join the military, and that's even with the military dropping physical fitness standards for jobs that are less physically active. But it's no wonder people don't want to go die for Ukraine. People don't want to go die for Israel or BlackRock or Raytheon. Most people who traditionally would be the type of people who join the military don't want to join the military to celebrate Trans Month and cut rainbow cakes. The people who join the military tend to be, at least historically, tend to be masculine men, tend to be men from more conservative rural communities, and just aren't really going to be interested in the direction that today's military is going. I saw the Army also brought back the the be all you can be message, but the commercials are nothing like they used to be back in the day. And it's interesting if you watch like a recruitment video from the Marines versus the Army, it's like night and day. The Marines show that you're joining the military to potentially fight wars. They're very kind of inspirational. They're very kind of masculine, and the Army ones are just kind of like, I want to help my community carry bottles of water. It's just very, very odd. New study finds that on average, people spend 4 hours per day on their appearance. I was kind of surprised by that. How do people find time to sleep, right? Like people are spending 8 hours a day on TikTok, 4 hours a day on their physical appearance, but not super related to e-commerce and news and stuff we normally talk about. But I thought that was kind of interesting. If you are in the e-commerce space, anything having to do with like beauty, personal care is, obviously still a good niche to go into, with people spending 4 hours per day trying to look their best. The presidential race is still almost 2 years away. But we are starting to kind of hear a buzz that Joe Biden likely won't be running. And looks like they're trying to set up either J.B. Pritzker or Michelle Obama to run instead of Biden in 2020. Would that be 2024? Zero Hedge article. The government is trying to kill us. Low-income Americans fume in mile-long lines after pandemic benefits end. So I believe about half the states had already cut increased pandemic benefits. The rest got rid of them at the end of February. We talked about in some recent videos how your average family on SNAP is going to be getting about $80 or $90 less per month. Now people are waking up at 4 a.m., going to sit in 8-hour lines at food banks, waiting to get food. And according to the Zero Hedge article, some seniors who are getting as much as $250 per month in SNAP benefits or food benefits are now going to be getting as little as $28 per month. But again, the average person is going to be losing about $90, $92 per month in benefits. This is just kind of anecdotal, but on Sunday I was driving over to my girl's parents' house, and I had to stop at the liquor store and a gas station, and I happened to drive by a blood plasma donation center, and I've never paid attention to it before, so maybe it's always been packed. but man, this parking lot was jam-packed. There wasn't a single spot in the parking lot. And I also noticed that a lot of the cars in the parking lot were nicer cars, luxury cars. I think I talked about in a video a couple weeks back, months back. My man J Powell had said the guy who works at the gas station near him was telling him that he makes $2,000 a month donating plasma. And I think I've mentioned this before too. My grandma's hairdresser drives a Hummer, and she pays for it by donating plasma. I think she gets $1,500 a month for donating plasma. So we're going to talk about 10-year bond yields, but I'm going to kind of skip that, just going to kind of start getting through here. Bank rate, 30-year fixed mortgage rates at 7.08% right now. We're being told inflation is going down, but there's certainly no relief at the grocery store, and the cost of services continues to rise. Forbes article, unrelenting layoffs push people to work longer hours and weekends to save their jobs. We talk about layoffs a lot in these videos. The job market previously was definitely stronger for job seekers. People were kind of calling their own shots, asking for more money, asking to work remotely, asking to work from home, asking for 6-hour work days and 4-day work weeks. We're slowly starting to see that kind of power shift back to employers as layoffs continue to happen. And so some layoffs from the past couple days, especially a couple notable ones. Sirius XM Radio laid off 8% of their staff. Airbnb cuts recruiting staff by 30%. We got more in layoffs, but I'm kind of bouncing around here. I saw something on Reddit and Twitter the other day. Airbnb property owners in San Francisco, or Airbnb hosts San Diego, not San Francisco, as well as some other cities reportedly, are being told by the app that they have to upload a short-term rental license, or they'll be blocked from doing short-term rentals. Now, obviously, there's a lot of cities and even cities, counties, etc., across the country where technically short-term rentals are not allowed or are illegal, but there's never really been much cracking down on it. Pretty much once, twice a year, I normally go down to like St. Pete, Treasure Island, Tampa area. In pretty much all of those cities, I don't think Tampa, but like all the beach cities, Airbnbs are technically illegal, but I always stay in Airbnbs, and there's always hundreds of Airbnbs available. Basically, unless a neighbor reports on you, there's really no enforcement, but it does seem like a lot of cities across the country are starting to kind of come up with some type of agreement with Airbnb, where Airbnb is going to have to require licenses and kind of police the platform. And what happens if you own 7 Airbnbs and all of a sudden now you're not allowed to rent those Airbnbs short term? Maybe you could do a longer term, more traditional lease, but who knows if you'll be able to cover your nut by doing so. Meta, aka Facebook, planning a fresh round of layoffs, potentially going to be affecting thousands of employees. Facebook, aka Meta, is trying to become a more streamlined and more efficient company. And we had talked in recent weeks about how Zuck doesn't like managing managers, and he told people to get back out there and go create something. Speaking of the return to the office thing that we've touched on once or twice in this video, Asia and Europe are returning to the office at higher rates than the U.S., which is kind of crazy, right? Asia and Europe had more strict lockdowns, seem to be more worried about the beer cough. Apparently in Europe, their return to office rate is somewhere between 70 and 90%. In Asia, this article reported that the return to office rate was between 80% and 110%. I'm not sure how you get 110% of people. How do you get over 100% of people to return to the office? Anyhow, that's what was reported. Even in the best U.S. cities like New York and Chicago, the return to office rates have just recently cracked 50%. I don't really get it because I've always heard that only about 30% of people are working remotely, so I'm not sure how 50% of people apparently are still working remotely and 50 have returned to the office. The reasons that this article gave was Americans have more space, bigger homes, so less reason to leave home, less distractions at home. Also, the U.S. has a lack of public transit and a tighter labor market, meaning companies are going to be a little bit more hesitant to force people back into the office. We got a ton of, I actually had a lot more stories for the day. But again, I got to get running. So here's where we're going to wrap things up today. In most of these videos, I wind up covering the recent tech layoffs. So that's what we're going to do, and then we're going to wrap this up, and then the rest of it we'll cover in tomorrow's video. So in terms of tech layoffs for the year, 454 tech companies have laid off employees. The total number of tech employees laid off for the year, and again, keep in mind, this isn't a full calendar year. This is just since January 1st. So we're, about 3 months into the year, January, February, actually not even, 2 months and a week or so. Total number of tech employees laid off, 123,882. The layoffs include Loft, laid off 15% of the company. Embark Trucks, laid off 230 employees, 70% of the company. Company by the name of Lendy, laid off 100. User Testing, laid off 63. Airbnb, laid off 30. Indigo laid off employees, didn't disclose how many. Zscaler laid off 177 employees, that's 3% of the company. Masterclass laid off 79. I think Masterclass is that invest in art platform that all these YouTubers are pushing lately. Ambev Tech laid off 50. A company by the name of Fitter laid off FITTR, laid off 30 employees, 11% of the company. CNET, this is kind of interesting because we've been talking about how CNET is using AI writers to write a lot of their content. CNET has laid off 10% of the company. Candela laid off 100% of the company. Truckstop.com laid off employees. ThoughtWorks laid off 500, 4% of the company. iFood laid off 355, 6% of the company. Color Health laid off 300, Waymore 309, Payfit 200, Yellow.ai 200, Sonder 100, which is 14% of the company. Protego Trust Bank laid off 50% of the company. Eventbrite, that's a notable company. I'm sure you guys have maybe been to an event that's been scheduled through Eventbrite. Eventbrite laid off 80, that's 8% of the company. Video game company Electronic Arts, that's probably another one you guys have heard of. They laid off 200. Sono Motors laid off 300. Palantir, Peter Thiel's company, laid off 75, and Poshmark laid off 2% of the company. We had a bunch more stuff. We'll roll it into tomorrow's video. If you guys wind up enjoying today's video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button down below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, and as always, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and opinions on everything we've discussed in today's video, so go ahead and drop those down below as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you tomorrow.